The events that have become known as the Armenian Holocaust began in 1915. In the midst of World War I, the actions perpetrated by the Young Turk government resulted in the murder of hundreds of thousands of Armenians in the Ottoman Empire. The ideals and tactics employed in the subjugation of the Armenian people in the beginning of the 20th century were used in an effort to guarantee Turkish dominance in the Ottoman Empire for the foreseeable future. During and following the Young Turk Revolution of 1908, the Armenians supported the parliament of the new regime, and, when Christians were permitted, they joined the Ottoman army in the Balkan campaign to show their support on a military level in 1912. They worked for the betterment of the Ottoman Empire during war and peace. But, according to the Turkish government, in 1914 the entirety of the Armenian population reversed everything they believed in and began plotting against their government. In 1915, sealed letters were sent to every police department in the empire with instructions to be opened on the same day. The letters contained instructions to arrest Armenian men and search their homes. This began the subjugation of the Armenian people. The methods were so effective that in only 6 months, the northeast quadrant of the Ottoman Empire did not have a single Armenian residing in it. 6 entire provinces were purged of all Armenian residents by the government. There is no exact number for the death toll by the end of 1923. Hundreds of thousands of Armenians had been killed. The strategies and steps for wiping out the Armenian population were carefully implemented. Using conscription, the Young Turk government drafted all able-bodied men into the army and deployed them in the front lines where, especially in places like the Dardanelles, death was almost a certainty. The men who remained were imprisoned on accusations made after the searching of their homes by police. Charges ranged from owning weapons to having books and pictures in your possession. Armenians were imprisoned on a huge scale, while at the same time many criminals were released and set free in Armenian areas. They committed assassinations and tortured individuals under the guise of disarming the Armenian populace. The few men who escaped military service and avoided or beat the charges brought against them were transported along with the women and children. For many, the only option for survival was conversion to Islam. It was reported that in Arabkir, the Armenian population was converted after seeing the brutality of the police against them, and the resulting deaths of some 2,000 male Armenians. In Harput, the old women, men, and children were first displayed publicly, where any person, regardless of their social standing, could take any number of women or girls for his wife or servants, while also forcibly converting them to Islam. The remaining Armenians were then marched away. The old men were sent to the interior, while the remaining families sent to the far reaches of the empire. They were forced to walk for weeks or months at a time before reaching the desert they had been relocated to. The roads they traveled were notoriously dangerous, and without the younger men, the Armenians fell prey to robbers, murderers, and rapists on the journey into the desert. The question remains, how did the world not react harshly to such a level of brutality under the Young Turk government? The answer being that the government proclaimed it was fighting against civil unrest. In Van, the revolutionaries were those men who refused the demand of military service. The only first-hand accounts that survive are letters from people that made it past the censorship that the Ottomans put in place at each border. As a result, all private communications were severed not only to the outside world, but even between provinces and the capital. The only information today is from eyewitness accounts of specific provinces, or from letters that escaped the territory of the empire, later to be published in journals and newspapers around the world. During the years of 1915 until 1923, the Young Turk government that ruled the Ottoman Empire did everything in its power to systematically exterminate the Armenian population. Through a series of carefully executed steps, the government systematically killed hundreds of thousands of Armenians. To this day, the Turkish government labels the Armenian Holocaust as efforts to quell civil unrest and refuses to admit that the actions perpetrated were an attempt at genocide.